Welcome to the Dynamic Duel Podcast, a weekly show where we review superhero films and debate the superiority between Marvel and DC by comparing their characters in stat-based battle simulations. I'm Johnny DC.
And I'm his twin brother, Marvelous Joe.
And in this episode, we are pitting the apocalyptic new god, Big Barda, against the Kree judge, jury, and executioner, Ronan the Accuser, who was the main villain in the first Guardians of the Galaxy film, making this a tie-in to our review next episode of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Yeah, I love Ronan the Accuser. Can't wait to find out who's going to win in a fight between him and Big Barda. This is a great, cosmic level character match. I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun, especially because, Big Barda is way overdue for a duel matchup on this show.
Hell yeah, she is. Holy cow. She's like a major DC player that I'm surprised we haven't gotten around to yet. I'm really happy that we're finally getting around to her now, though. But of course, we'll break down the characters' backstories and then speculate on how a battle between these two characters will play out before running simulations to find out who would really win later on in this episode. Before that, we're going to break down the comic book movie news to come out from the past week, which, of course, we got the Flash official trailer 2 from Cinemacon, as well as the news that Kraven the Hunter is going to be R-rated.
As always, we list our segment times in our episode description, so feel free to check out the show notes if you want to skip ahead to a particular topic.
Those of you who have listened to our recent podcast episodes will know that our duel simulator has become so advanced that it's gained sentience and has named itself the Artificial Lifeform for Running Extensive Duels, just a rather very intelligent simulator 9000, or Alfred Jarvis 9000. He has a quick message for our listeners, so let's hear it.
Why, hello there. Do you love listening and chatting about Marvel and DC? Then become a part of the Dynamic Duel community on Patreon, where you can choose from 3 tiers. The Dynamic 2.0 tier lets you listen to this podcast without ads and gives you access to its Discord chat group, where you can chat with Johnny DC and Marvelous Joe. The Fantastic 4 tier gives you that and more with 2 bonus episodes each month, including bloopers and top 10 shows where Johnny and Joe count down your favourite Marvel and DC subjects. The X-Force tier makes you an executive producer of Dynamic Duel, where every month you help the host choose what to review and who to fight against each other. And finally, the Dynamite Podcast Network tier allows aspiring podcasters to create their own battle-focused show using this Monte Carlo simulator. Johnny and Joe will help you develop your show, provide graphic support and consultation, and get you simulation results to announce on your show. Pitch the twins your show via email at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by reaching out to them on social media. Check it out at patreon.com/dynamicduel. Pip pip cheerio.
Thanks, Adrian9000, and thanks to everyone who supports the podcast. If you're at the fantastic $4 level, then this past weekend you got a bonus episode of this show where Jonathan and I ranked the best Marvel and DC cartoon themes. That was a whole lot of fun to rank. Definitely give it a listen when you get the time.
It was like nostalgia overload. I loved it.
Yeah. But with that out of the way,
quick to the No Prize.
A No Prize is an award Marvel used to give out to fans. Our version, the Dynamic Duel No Prize, is a digital award we post on Instagram and in our email newsletter for the person that we feel gave the best answer to our question of the week. Last week we asked, if Adam Driver is cast as Mr. Fantastic, who would you cast as Dr. Doom? And in reverse, if Driver is Doom, who should be Reed? Of course, this is coming off the rumor that Adam Driver is in final talks to be cast in the Fantastic Four movie.
Yeah, we got quite a number of answers. We're going to break down the honorable mentions before revealing this week's No Prize winner. Our first honorable mention goes to Zach Wilder, who said,
"Hey guys, Zach Wilder here. Honestly, prefer Driver as Doom. I would love to see John Krasinski come back, but sounds unlikely. So the other option I was thinking of was Eddie Redmayne, the lead from the Fantastic Beasts movie. Honestly, it might be a wild card, but he sounds interesting to play that role as Mr. Fantastic, in my opinion.
I would love it if John Krasinski came back as Mr. Fantastic and was just the main Mr. Fantastic for the MCU, because I think his wife, Emily Blunt, would also make a fantastic Sue Storm. But if I couldn't keep Krasinski as Reed, Eddie Redmayne is not a terrible choice. Like, he played Stephen Hawking, the biggest nerd of all time. And what is Reed Richards if not a big nerd?
I think Stephen Hawking is a little bit more than a big nerd, but you're right in that, he kind of looks the part. He can portray himself as hyper intelligent. And yeah, I think he's a quality enough actor. And also, the Fantastic Beasts movies have really gone downhill. So I think he's probably looking for work anyway. I think he'd be a great read.
I wonder if that would make people get confused between Fantastic Four and Fantastic Beasts. They'd be like, what? Is this a sequel? Where's Dumbledore?
Well, you could cast Jude Law as Dr. Doom, although actually he was already Yon-Rogg in Captain Marvel, so he can't do it. But I think Eddie Redmayne and Adam Driver would play well off each other. Zach didn't give us an answer for who he thinks should play Doom if Adam Driver is Mr. Fantastic, but I really like his Reed Richards answer.
Yeah, great answer, Zach Wilder. Our next honorable mention goes to John Starosky, who said,
"What is up, guys? John Starosky here. So Adam Driver's Reed Richards should be oppositioned by Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as Dr. Doom. I think he'd be really great for the role. He's a very talented actor. And for the reverse, with Adam Driver as Dr. Doom, I think it'd be really great to see Milo Ventimiglia as Reed Richards. Also a very talented actor. He was known for Heroes, and he's done a couple other things. But I think for sure that both of those castings would be absolutely fantastic."
Yeah, I don't hate Jonathan Rhys-Meyers as Dr. Doom. He has the sort of like smug arrogance to him that I think could really work well for the character. And Milo Ventimiglia from Heroes, I was a big fan of that show. I know for a while he stated that his dream role would have been to play Nightwing in a live-action Batman film. And I really feel like he needs to get in on the comic book superhero casting landscape because clearly he's a fan.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like both of these actors are Hollywood's biggest B-listers, but there's no denying that they have talent and they definitely have the ability to perform wonderfully in these superhero films. So great answer, John Starosky. Our next honorable mention goes to Brandon Estergard, who said,
"Hey guys, if Adam Driver is cast as Dr. Doom, I would like to see Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Mr. Fantastic. And if he is playing Mr. Fantastic, then I want to see Keanu Reeves be Dr. Doom. I know there's a age gap there, but I'm sure they'll explain it with like black magic or science or whatever."
You know what? Joseph Gordon-Levitt is one of the more interesting names thrown out there for Reed Richards that I've heard in a long time. I think the guy would absolutely kill it. It's been a while since I've really seen him in anything, but I think he comes across as remarkably intelligent, especially when you look at roles of his like Inception or something like that,
Yeah, or The Dark Knight Rises. He's a great actor. I really like that choice for Reed Richards. I don't love Keanu Reeves as Dr. Doom. I know a lot of people are like fan casting that. We know that Keanu Reeves is fucking terrible at doing European accents. Like, let's not even start that.
He could do an American accent. I'm sure Doom is smart enough to pull off an American accent, considering, he did part of his postgraduate work in the United States. So I would love to see Keanu Reeves in the role. Like, if that happened, I would not be upset about it.
I don't know. I think eventually he'd have to do an accent.
I think you just don't want an actor of Keanu Reeves' caliber to be part of the MCU. I think you just want him for DC. That's what I think.
Caliber. I mean, he's not like an Oscar contender, No,
he's not an acting savant, but he is a very interesting actor who picks interesting roles and draws in a lot of people because of that.
Fair. Yeah.
Fucking Neo, man. In the MCU, I could see that. That'd be awesome. So great answer, Brandon. We want to give a huge shout out to Benjamin Ryan and Alex Wong for taking the time to visit our website and leave their answers.
Yeah, I do want to point out quickly that in Alex Wong's answer, he said that really anyone could play the role of Dr. Doom because he's wearing a mask. And that got me thinking, like, what if they don't reveal who's going to play Doom? And it just leaves like fans speculating for the course of several films as to who's beneath the mask. I think that would be really cool.
That would be really interesting, actually. I would love that. Kind of like how, if I remember this correctly, they never revealed who played the Ghostface killer in the Scream movies.
Yeah.
But the winner of this week's No Prize is Jacob Bell, who said,
"Hey guys, it's Jacob Bell here, and if Adam Driver is Mr. Fantastic, then I would do Cillian Murphy as Dr. Doom. I know he's already been a villain, but that was in DC. He's an incredible actor. I think he would be perfect. And then if Adam Driver is Dr. Doom, then I would cast Ansel Elgort as Mr. Fantastic. He's overdue to be a superhero. He's a fantastic actor, so that's my choice."
And sure enough, we have a casting question with Jacob Bell bringing an answer. And of course, he gets the win because Jacob Bell is just awesome at casting. Seriously, he needs to be a casting director in Hollywood.
Yeah, I think he'd crush it, actually. I love both of these answers. I never considered Ansel Elgort as Reed Richards, but he not only does he absolutely look the part, he'd be a great younger take on the role. I think Marvel would definitely be able to build a franchise off of him. And Cillian Murphy as Dr. Doom is like a no-brainer, right?
Right.
The guy played Scarecrow in Batman Begins and was so good in that role. He's so versatile that he could definitely take a different approach to Dr. Doom and absolutely crush it. And plus, he's British. He can definitely do the European accent thing. I think it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with everything. Cillian Murphy was so good as the Scarecrow, they had to bring him back for 2 more movies in just like minor roles. He's just awesome. I'm actually really looking forward to seeing him in Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
But great answer, Jacob Bell. You win this week's No Prize. If you, the listener, want a shot at winning your own No Prize, stay tuned to later on in this episode when we'll be asking another question of the week.
And now that that's done,
on to the news. Okay, so this past week was Cinemacon in Las Vegas, and I am super jealous to everyone who got to attend because they got so many badass trailers and footage that we, the plebes, will never get a chance to see.
I mean, eventually we will get to see them.
Yeah, when the movie comes out, we'll get to see that.
Right.
But one of the few trailers that the public did get to see was, of course, for The Flash, and it was amazing. This isn't the first trailer that we've had, but this is definitely one that gets me the most excited for the film. Like each new promotional piece that comes out just gets me more and more hyped to see this movie when I really wasn't excited to see it before.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this trailer. This is the first preview that we got that really gives a good sense of what the overall story is going to be, and it looks pretty exciting.
Yeah, of course, we got a sense for the story in the previous trailer number 1, but this definitely dives more into it. As we hear Bruce Wayne saying at the beginning of the trailer, Michael Keaton's character, he spent a lifetime trying to right the wrongs of the past, how he lost his parents. And he's talking with Barry Allen, who actually can do that, which is an interesting take on the character. And you could see why someone like Bruce Wayne would be endeared towards someone like The Flash.
And it was neat to see how the different Bruce Waynes kind of had not necessarily different takes, but you have Michael Keaton's Bruce Wayne who was like impressed by the Flash's ability. And then you have Ben Affleck's Bruce Wayne who was very much warning him against taking this type of time traveling action.
I feel like Ben Affleck's Batman has seen more shit in his shorter career than Michael Keaton's Batman. Everything from aliens to gods. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There is a shot early on when we get to see, the vault of different bat suits that Michael Keaton has worn throughout his career. And the person standing there looking at them, that has to be Michelle Pfeiffer, right?
I have no idea. They have white hair, long. I'm not sure. It was pretty interesting, though. I've heard that there are so many cameos in this movie that we don't even know about. A lot of people have seen the Flash movie already. And I don't want to know about any of the surprise cameos that are coming our way. I want it to be a surprise. So if that is Michelle Pfeiffer, I don't want to know about it.
I'm just really excited and happy if it is, because that would mean that Catwoman ended up with Batman, and I just love that. Of course, this film was screened for the first time at CinemaCon for all the lucky bastards who got to attend. They didn't show any post-credit scenes, however, so audiences will still be surprised in theaters when they see that for the first time. Later on in the trailer, of course, we get to see the Flash traveling through the time stream, it looks like, and we see Zod's emergence on Earth. And of course, Supergirl is there to help him fight the Kryptonians.
I love the line where Michael Keaton's like, "You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts." So good, and such a great callback to the Batman 89 film.
Yeah, that's just a high caliber Easter egg right there. We get to see more of the other Barry Allen in his really awkward looking Flash getup, in my opinion. It's apparently a bat suit that has been reconfigured to be his Flash suit. I just think it looks really goofy.
Well, because the Michael Keaton Batman suit has no neck, right? He can't turn his head, it looks like.
Yeah.
So the silhouette is a little bit off. I'm interested in learning why Barry Allen Prime, his Flash electricity Speed Force stuff is yellow, and the new Barry Allen, his electricity trail is blue, like how it was in the Justice League movies. I want to know what the reason is behind that.
Yeah, me too.
It's a cool visual effect to help audiences identify, though, which Flash is which Flash when, they're moving at super speeds.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be helpful. It looks like Barry Allen gets electrocuted like 20 times in this movie, though, because from like the last trailer to this trailer, there are like several instances of him just like screaming into the sky while he's being electrocuted. One of the things I really liked about this trailer was the swell of the music alongside like the very emotional visuals that we saw. I thought they worked really well together. And it makes me wonder if this music is part of the score for the film. You'd think it almost would be, considering, the film is done. We get to see Kara fighting Zod. We get to see Ben Affleck's Batman, like, gliding away from explosions, and Michael Keaton's Batman, like, gliding down from the Batplane.
I was surprised, honestly, at just how much the Batplane seemingly is used in the runtime of this movie, because it looks like it's used in a lot of scenes here.
Oh, yeah. We're going to get so much Batplane. It's going to be so great. I hope we get a lot of Batmobile, too, because that's an awesome Batmobile. We're clued into who the villain of the story is later on in this trailer when we see the alternate Barry Allen saying how, like, no one's going to die, we're going to fix this, and the Barry Allen we know saying we're not going to be able to fix this, but it's going to be okay. That was interesting. Ezra Miller definitely plays off of himself very well as an actor.
Well, I feel like it gave away too much. I think we just got the Flash's arc in that shot where Barry's big lesson is that he can't control everything, that he can't always right every wrong. And that's where the two Barrys kind of diverge. I would have been perfectly fine thinking that Zod was going to be the only villain in this, only to be surprised when we got a Dark Flash character, I
don't know. I think it was subtle enough. And, honestly, I'm still kind of confused about the two Barrys. The last shot of the trailer are the two Barrys sitting with Batman, and they're about to, like, skydive off of the Batplane. But it's weird because in that scene, the Barry with the short hair is the one outside of the Flash costume. And I guess that means the alternate Barry is wearing the Prime Barry's Flash costume. It's very weird.
I noticed that too, yeah.
Yeah, it makes me wonder, like, how many scenes we're seeing of the Flash in this new costume are Prime Barry versus alternate Barry. I have no idea.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. Because you're right, Prime Barry would not be like asking Batman where his parachute is and be like super impressed by it and all that stuff. Because
exactly.
He's had experience with Batman and he would know. But how cool is that final shot with Batman skydiving away from the Batplane and the Batplane going across the moon?
Oh, yeah. That was really cool. All the Batplane stuff is just gets me super happy. I can't wait for that.
There's a lot of like cool little winks and nods and Easter eggs here and there that the director Andy Muschietti included that makes me think it's just going to be a phenomenal film and that he really gets the fans and that he's actually excited about the characters.
Yeah, to me, this really feels like it's going to be almost something like No Way Home or something like that. I can't wait for it. And I can't wait to see how it also sets up the new DC universe. Toward the end of the trailer, before it shows the title, it cycles through the various logos of the various heroes that are going to be on screen in the movie. Michael Keaton's Batman, Batfleck, Supergirl, and then the Flash. They're really selling the amount of characters that are in this film. And I think they're doing it really well. But speaking of all the heroes in this movie, that brings us to our question of the week. What character are you most excited to see in the Flash film, and why?
Record your answer at dynamicduel.com by clicking on the red microphone button in the bottom right-hand corner, which will prompt you to leave us a voicemail. Your message can be up to 30 seconds long, and don't forget to leave your name in case we include you on the podcast. We'll pick our favorite answer and award that person a Dynamic Duel No Prize that we'll post to Instagram and our email newsletter. Be sure to answer before May 6th. But speaking of Cinemacon, there was a bit of footage released on behalf of Sony showing a scene from the Kraven the Hunter movie, which is starring Aaron Taylor Johnson. Basically, the scene that was described is Kraven fighting a bunch of poachers and killing them, basically, just beating the shit out of them gruesomely. They described one part as Kraven biting a dude's nose off and shit, acting like a crazy animal.
Damn.
And I don't know how I feel about all of that, but the implication and the big news that really came out of the scene was that Kraven the Hunter is going to be R-rated, which is unlike Sony's other villain titles like Morbius and Venom, which were all PG-13. To have an R-rated Sony Spider-Verse Spider-Man villain movie is kind of an interesting take. I don't hate it because, Kraven the Hunter can be a very dark, violent character. And when you look at a story like Kraven's Last Hunt or something like that, they go into dark themes that I think would be better suited by an R rating. But I just didn't see this coming. It's a kind of a big shock and mildly increases my interest in the film overall.
It really makes me wonder if this film is going to be a part of Sony's planned Spider-Verse, and whether or not Morbius is going to make a cameo in a post-credit scene saying we're building a team or something like that, Because that's what I thought we were going to get. But this R rating makes me second guess that. What if they're just going the direction of the Joker films for this? Just its own standalone R-rated villain-focused thing.
That could entirely be the case. Maybe they're trying to have their cake and eat it, where you get a Joker-esque R-rated standalone villain story, and then maybe still tie it into a larger villain team-up film with Aaron Taylor Johnson, Tom Hardy, Jared Leto, and Michael Keaton.
I mean, technically, I guess they could do that since they've established this whole multiverse thing. It would just be bizarre.
Yeah, I still don't think it would even be worth doing unless you could have Spider-Man in the movie, and I just don't see that happening.
It would almost be like Joaquin Phoenix's Joker popping up in the Flash film. I'd be like, what?
Well, it's cool that DC is establishing their Elseworlds brand for stories that take place outside of DCU continuity, right? Sony is kind of its own Elseworlds thing, but these characters are so tied into Spider-Man, and you want to see them interact with that main character, and it's not likely that's going to happen. So it's all just so weird that Sony's making these films to begin with. At least this one's going to be R-rated, so it might have some cool hardcore action. The first trailer for this movie should be dropping within the next month or so here, so we'll see what kind of vibes we get from that first footage released to the general public.
I would be really surprised if it dropped with Across the Spider-Verse, this kid animated film with an R-rated trailer in front of it.
If the movie is going to be rated R, I hope that they drop a red band trailer in addition to the regular trailer. The movie comes out October 6th, though, so we have plenty of time for speculation prior to the film's release.
But I think that does it for all the news for this episode. Now let's move on to the main event, where we find out who's going to win in a battle between the apocalyptic new god, Big Barda, and the Kree warrior, Ronan the Accuser. Okay, Big Barda versus Ronan the Accuser. These are two massively powered cosmic characters that carry these awesome cudgels, a mega rod, and what is it called? The ultimate hammer or something like that?
It's the universal weapon.
Close enough. Like I said, I've been looking forward to doing a duel episode with Barda for quite some time. And, we figured with the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 movie coming up, Ronan would not be a terrible matchup for Barda. The characters were both created by Jack Kirby, and the way he draws them, at least, they both wear these curved headdress things.
Yeah, they kind of have similar silhouettes, at least, from the shoulders up, which is interesting, and they both have cool weapons. When we stumbled upon Ronan the Accuser as a dual matchup for Big Barda, I think it was with the executive producers months ago.
Oh yeah, it was a while back.
I was super excited by the concept and really interested in learning about Big Barda's history and seeing exactly what she can do. Because I know what Ronan can do, and he is super powerful, and Big Barda has her work cut out for her.
Big Barda's not threatened by Ronan. She deals with punks like him all the time on Apocalypse.
Ronan the Accuser is no punk, and I think you'll learn that as I go into his backstory. But let's learn how these fights happen. Let's go ahead and turn to our sentient duel simulator, Alfred Jarvis 9000. AJ9K, tell our listeners how you go about determining a winner in our duel matchups.
Yes, of course, sir. The way I determine a winner between the contestants is by running 1,000 Monte Carlo simulations using the character's statistics. A Monte Carlo simulation is a probabilistic model used to determine outcomes through random sampling. In this case, I randomize the statistics along a normal distribution as a way to simulate the many variables that can occur during battle. The stat parameters are based on the official Marvel power grid, from which the DC characters' statistics are extrapolated. Additional stat categories are included such as range, damage potential, versatility and perception in order to create a more detailed and accurate simulation. The results of the 1000 simulations provide a percentage of wins for each character. The contestant with the higher percentage is declared the victor, as they have a higher probability to win any given battle. In an equitable pairing, neither character should win 100% of the matches. The comic book stories have shown that there's even a way for Batman to defeat Superman, so the confidence rate of my method falls in line with the precedents that have been established in the source material. My mathematical simulations are without subjectivity or bias. Feats are not the sole consideration, nor are fan votes tabulated for determination of the winner.
Thanks, AJ9K. Before we run the simulations, though, we like to break down each character's histories and abilities before improvising a scenario on how we imagine one of the 1000 simulations would play out beat for beat.
And I believe it's my turn to go first with the Marvel character's backstory, so let me go ahead and tell you all about Ronan the Accuser. Ronan, a blue-skinned member of the space alien race known as the Kree, was born on the Kree capital planet Hala, where he underwent formal education. Upon completion of school, he joined the Public Accuser Corps, which was a planetary militia tasked with serving as judge, jury, and executioner to those accused of crimes against the Kree Empire. As a particularly skilled and devoted accuser, Ronan rose through the ranks of the Corps until he was promoted to Supreme Accuser by the Supreme Intelligence, which was the ruler of the Kree and an organic supercomputer composed of the greatest minds in Kree history. As the Supreme Accuser, Ronan was third in authority only to the Supreme Intelligence and Imperial Minister, and he took his task of enforcing the Kree laws and decrees seriously. One of his earliest missions in his new role was to travel to Earth to investigate the destruction of a robotic Kree sentry drone at the hands of the Fantastic Four. Though the Four were able to redirect the quote-unquote sentencing blast back at Ronan and defeat him, the attack prompted Ronan and the Supreme Intelligence to order a Kree spy expedition to Earth to further investigate the threat that the planet posed. Among these spies was the Kree captain Mar-Vell, whom you can learn more about in our Captain Marvel Duel episode. Despite Ronan's seeming compliance taking orders from the Supreme Intelligence supercomputer, he secretly plotted to overthrow the Kree leader, believing that the Empire should not be ruled by an artificial intelligence. During his attempted coup, however, he was stopped by Captain Mar-Vell and incarcerated for his treason against the Kree Empire. He later escaped, though, and was able to successfully carry out his takeover using the Empire's war against the Skrull alien race, the Kree-Skrull War, as a distraction. Ronan's role as the Kree's leader was short-lived, however, as the Supreme Intelligence returned and telepathically forced him into obedience. While under mental subjugation, Ronan learned the error of his ways and decided to serve the Supreme Intelligence willingly. He was then assigned to the elite intergalactic strike force called the Kree Star Force, which was tasked with assassinating Queen Lilandra of the Shi'ar alien empire. Ronan and the Star Force were thwarted, however, by the Avengers, who defended Queen Lilandra alongside the Shi'ar Imperial Guard. It was Earth's heroes' interference in galactic affairs that eventually led to Earth being declared a prison planet for the universe's criminals, the rationale being that heroes such as the Avengers, Fantastic Four, and X-Men would be too preoccupied with the criminals to do anything about cosmic affairs. Ronan was assigned as the Warden of Earth, ruling over it ruthlessly. However, the Universal criminals ended up partnering with Earth's heroes to drive Ronan back away from Earth. Eventually, back on Hala, Ronan was framed for treason and stripped of his accuser rank, but he nevertheless defended the Kree Empire alongside Nova, Star-Lord, and the rest of the United Front against the Annihilation Wave invasion of the Negative Zone forces led by the villain Annihilus. Having cleared his name in the eyes of the Kree Empire, Ronan returned to Hala to confront those who had framed him, learning that in his absence, the rogue government faction had lobotomized the Supreme Intelligence. As an act of mercy, Ronan killed the Supreme Intelligence and was named the new Emperor of the Kree Empire. His people soon fell into disarray, however, after largely being assimilated by the techno-organic parasitic race known as the Phalanx, who had themselves been taken over by the Avengers villain Ultron, whom you can learn more about in our Brainiac vs. Ultron Duel episode. Ronan teamed up with Nova and Star-Lord again to defeat Ultron and the Phalanx, but despite their victory, the Kree Empire was in ruins. You can learn more about Nova and Star-Lord in their respective duels against Green Lantern and Adam Strange. The Inhumans, who were heroes from Earth who descended from experiments by the Kree Empire on ancient mankind, took advantage of the Kree Empire's brokenness, and the Inhuman leader Black Bolt defeated Ronan to become the Empire's new ruler. The Inhumans' rule over the Kree was short-lived though, and they later returned to Earth. Ronan then resuscitated the Supreme Intelligence to give it back control and rebuild the Kree Empire. He then fought alongside Nova and the Guardians of the Galaxy to prevent the spread of the Cancerverse, and then joined the cosmic superhero team called the Annihilators, consisting of Ronan, Silver Surfer, Quasar, Beta Ray Bill, and Gladiator, all of whom have been in their own Duel episodes, save for Gladiator. Later, a lost mirror device known as the Black Vortex was found, which could grant its owner the power of a celestial deity. Knowing the device was too powerful in the wrong hands, Ronan acquired it and brought it before the Supreme Intelligence, asking to use it to defend Hala. The Supreme Intelligence denied him, however, and soon, Star-Lord's dad, Jason of Spartax, descended upon Hala and destroyed it, acquiring the Black Vortex for himself. Ronan blamed himself for causing his planet's destruction by bringing the Black Vortex there, and he tried to rebuild the Kree Empire and get revenge. Unfortunately, the surviving Kree aliens rebelled against their old ways of following the Supreme Intelligence and the Accusers, and they cruelly imprisoned and experimented on Ronan, turning him into a cyborg. He was eventually discovered in his new state by the Inhuman King Black Bolt, who put Ronan out of his misery at his request. You can learn more about Black Bolt in his duel against Shazam. And that's his history. He's currently dead now in the comics, but he should return eventually. Powers-wise, Ronan the Accuser is a member of the Kree alien race, which makes him physiologically superior to the most physically impressive human. Further enhanced by his Accuser body armor, Ronan can lift around 50 tons and withstand all but the most powerful of attacks. In addition to physical enhancements, his armor is equipped with technological scanners and cloaking devices that can detect the environment around him and make him undetectable to others. As the Supreme Accuser, Ronan also wields the Universal Weapon, which is a Kree Warhammer device that replicates a lesser form of the power cosmic, meaning that like the Silver Surfer, Ronan can use the hammer to fire incredibly powerful energy blasts, create simple energy constructs, manipulate matter at the molecular state, and teleport across interstellar distances. In addition, Ronan contains vast knowledge of Kree laws and strategy, and has Kree Accuser combat training. And that's Ronan the Accuser.
Well, it's interesting that his hammer was like a prototype powered cosmic channeler. I believe Barda's Mega Rod was a prototype Apocalyptan Mother Box.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it has some of the same features. Not all of them, but some.
God, I had the hardest time figuring out exactly what Ronan's hammer could do specifically when typing out his abilities for this duel matchup, because I read so many different comics where basically he gave these really vague statements in regards to what the universal weapon could do. Like, it could create and destroy all matter. And it did a lot of really weird things. Like when he first went up against the Fantastic Four, he like weighed the thing down with his hammer so that he couldn't like stand up. And then he also made the Human Torch's fire ability so volatile that he went supernova unwillingly, you know, just random shit like that I couldn't quite figure out how to nail down in the description. But then I read a comic where he fought the Silver Surfer, who described Ronan's hammer as trying to emulate the power cosmic, which is bestowed by Galactus in the Marvel Universe. And Ronan responded by saying, yeah, like what Galactus bestows, Kree technology can emulate. So that's when it all made sense to me. The whole like energy and matter manipulation thing. Kind of like how the Kree invented the negabands in an attempt to replicate the quantum bands. The universal weapon is another use of Kree technology to replicate vast cosmically powered sources throughout the universe.
When it comes to the Kree, the Shi'ar, and the Skrulls, like the three main alien races in Marvel, the Kree seem like the biggest douchebags. I don't know why.
I think they all take turns, honestly, except for maybe the Shi'ar. But yeah, the Skrulls and the Kree can be pretty douchey.
Well, I guarantee you they're not bigger douchebags than the Apocalyptans.
Probably not, yeah.
And Apocalypse is where Big Barda comes from. Let me tell you all about her and her character breakdown. On the hellish planet of Apocalypse, ruled by the tyrannical new god Darkseid, existed a fierce battalion of women warriors known as the Female Furies. The Furies were bred in gestation labs and engineered for cruelty and ruthlessness. One of the Furies' greatest members was a woman named Big Barda, who fell in love with a man on Apocalypse, and the two conceived a child naturally. Upon learning of this, Darkseid forcibly extracted the fetus from Barda and placed the child in a gestation chamber, where it continued to grow and, once born, was placed under the care of Granny Goodness, commander of the Female Furies and the head of the orphanage where the child was raised. Granny Goodness brought up this child, named Big Barda, to be a formidable warrior, grooming her to be the Diane of the elite Special Powers Force who served under Darkseid directly. During her training, Barda met Scott Free, the adopted son of Darkseid, who you can learn more about in our Mr. Miracle vs. Adam Warlock Duel episode. Taken aback by a sense of peace he had about him that came from his true heritage as the son of Highfather, the benevolent ruler of New Genesis, Barda fell in love with Scott, a fellow orphan, and he introduced her to a secret rebellion on Apocalypse led by the freedom fighter Yeaton of New Genesis. After one of Barda's friends, Arali, was tortured to death for the crime of dancing, Barda, Yeaton, and the new god Metron helped Scott Free escape Apocalypse. Though Scott urged Barda to escape with him, Barda refused, as she was unprepared and frightened to leave the only life she had ever known. Life without Scott proved to be more torturous than any training enforced by Granny Goodness, however, and when Darkseid was able to declare war on New Genesis with the absence of Scott Free, Barda used the opportunity to escape herself. Barda managed to find Scott on Earth, where he had been training under a master escape artist named Thaddeus Brown, aka Mr. Miracle, the mantle of which Scott would eventually inherit. Barda wasn't the only one to find Scott on Earth, however, as the forces of Apocalypse fought to kill the son of Highfather on his new adopted planet. Barda helped Scott fend off his would-be assassins, and over time, the two were wed by Highfather. Now married, Barda followed her husband and their diminutive assistant Oberon across the world as Scott built up a death-defying escape artistry act. The couple tried to live a normal life for a time, buying a loft in Greenwich Village, where Barda taught self-defense training to the local women. Their life caught up with them, however, and when Scott joined the Justice League in order to help them protect Earth from Darkseid and the forces of Apocalypse, Barda joined her husband, and even led a mission to rescue Scott when he got lost in space. The couple lived on New Genesis for a time, but returned to Earth and took up residence in the Justice League headquarters. It was during this time that the two separated, as Barda felt that Scott did not consider her feelings. Barda died in battle not long after, though a mournful Scott was able to bring her back to life after having temporary access to Source Energy, which is the energy in DC that created the universe and brings life. When one of the new gods of New Genesis predicted that an old god, Mageddon, would awaken and cause chaos throughout the universe, he ordered Barda and the new god Orion, who you can learn more about in our Orion vs. Silver Surfer episode, to join the Justice League in order to help stop the threat. Barda partook in numerous missions with the League, though after the threat of Mageddon was eventually stopped, Barda and Scott semi-retired to the suburbs of Connecticut, though they never refused the chance to help members of the Justice League go up against Apocalypse, such as when Darkseid kidnapped Supergirl and brainwashed her into becoming a female Fury. After a brief stint on the Birds of Prey team and several other adventures with the Justice League, Barda was killed by a being of New Genesis named Infinity Man, who was manipulated into killing all new gods in an effort to usher in a new age of deities. Not long after, Darkseid nearly conquered the universe during the Final Crisis event, and after his defeat, Barda was reincarnated on New Genesis alongside Highfather and several other new gods. In post-Flashpoint continuity, Barda, still married to Scott, fought alongside her husband to protect Earth 2 from being destroyed by Darkseid, though the two failed to save that universe and have since fought alongside the heroes of DC's Prime Universe. Powers-wise, as a new god, Barda possesses vast durability, reflexes, and strength, allowing her to lift in excess of 100 tons. She's essentially immortal, having not aged upon reaching adulthood and is over 250 years old. She is a highly trained warrior, mastering all forms of hand-to-hand combat and weapons training developed by the new gods. She's equipped with apocalyptic armor and a weapon known as a Mega Rod, a technological cudgel capable of generating devastating energy blasts and beams, tracking energy signatures, and it allows Barda to teleport without the need of a boom tube. She also has a limited degree of gravity control, allowing her to lift into the air with anti-gravity or increasing the pull of gravity on an object or individual. Sometimes she has a mother box, sometimes she doesn't. A mother box being a supercomputer of New Genesis technology that allows her to manipulate matter and energy, much like the Power Cosmic.
Well, why does she need a mother box if she has a Mega Rod, which is supposed to emulate the abilities of a mother box?
She doesn't really. The only time I've really seen her carry one is when she and the JLA were going up against Mageddon. I'm just bringing this up in case you try and pull some shit with the hammer.
Okay, so you're just fucking cheating.
Fine, she doesn't have the mother box, just the Mega Rod, but it'll be enough.
Okay, I like this. All right, let's do it. Because now that we've got their histories and abilities out of the way, we're going to speculate on how one of the 1,000 simulated matches will go. The winner's determined by simulations, not the speculation, but it's fun to imagine how the fight could play out. Alfred Jarvis 9000, what are the rules of our speculation?
Well, I should say there are no rules, other than the characters have no prior knowledge of the other going into the fight. All they are aware of starting out is that the other character is a threat that needs to be eliminated. For the speculation, the contestants will begin approximately 50 meters apart in a nondescript environment that will have no bearing on the match itself, as no environmental statistics are considered in my simulations. The contestants must earn victory on their own merit.
All right then, let's get into it. Big Barda and Ronan the Accuser meet on the battlefield. Who goes first? I'm actually going to say that Barda goes first, since she was trained on Apocalypse as a female Fury. She's been taught to show no mercy and give no quarter. So she's going to start by swinging her Mega Rod at Ronan and just hurling a wave of apocalyptic energy at him.
But, having been trained on Hala as an accuser, Ronan's been taught to show no mercy and give no quarter to those who show no mercy and give no quarter. So he's going to raise his universal weapon and generate an energy shield in front of him that blocks Big Barda's Mega Rod attack. And while he's behind the shield, he's going to be scanning Big Barda with his universal weapon, which is going to feed information to his armor about her, telling him that she is extremely physically tough and that he needs to keep her at a fucking distance. So that's what he's going to do.
I mean, good luck with that, because, as Ronan is hiding behind this shield, she's going to use the anti-gravity powers of the Mega Rod to, launch herself into the air. And then she's going to use it to also blast herself past Ronan's shield and down onto him, just knocking him to the ground, where she begins pummeling him with the rod mercilessly.
Well, this is not where Ronan wanted to be. I just said he had to keep his distance. But, she's swinging the Mega Rod down onto him, but he could block that, knock her rod aside with his hammer, and then he's going to launch himself from the ground with, this hammer uppercut right into Barda's chin, sending her up into the air.
What, an inch? You know how durable she is? She's just going to shrug that off and then grab his hammer with her other hand and just yank it away from him and then hurl it towards the horizon.
Well, that makes her dumb, because the universal weapon has a fail-safe to prevent other people from using it. So, Barda tries to throw Ronan's hammer, but then the weapon just sends this massive energy shock, and that's going to cause her to drop the hammer and just fall to the ground stunned. At which point, Ronan's going to grab his universal weapon and just play croquet with her head, just sending her careening across the ground.
Dude, you think Barda hasn't been electrocuted on Apocalypse as part of her torture training? I guarantee you she has. So again, her recovery time is faster than Ronan is going to expect. And as he swings his hammer, Barda is just going to use her Mega Rod to increase gravity's pull on it. So his hammer is just going to slam into the ground before he can make a full swing. And that's when Barda lifts her legs up from the ground and like grabs his neck between her calves, just twisting and slamming Ronan's head down next to his hammer. And just to prove that she's a badass, she's also gonna like grab the universal weapon. Stupid name, by the way. I just have to point that out. It's a fucking hammer.
It is a horrible name, isn't it?
It's the worst. Call it a universal hammer at least. Anyway, she grabs it, and she's just going to power through the electric shock to break it in half over her knee, and that's going to destroy the technology in it. She's just going to, like, toss it to the ground.
Well, breaking the universal weapon in half over her knee, that's just going to break the handle. So all Barda did was make the hammer shorter. So, Ronan's going to roll on the ground over to his universal weapon, which is shorter, but just fine. He's going to pick it up, and while on the ground, he's going to use it to transform the ground beneath Barda's feet into liquid. Okay, so she just falls right into the floor like quicksand, and then Ronan's gonna solidify the ground again, making her completely trapped underground.
Okay, well, I mean, from the ground above Barda, where she sank, is just gonna erupt this massive red beam, like an apocalyptic fire pit. That's gonna happen right before Barda just explodes out of the ground.
Except Ronan was prepared for this. Okay. So while she was underground, he scanned her movements using his universal weapon, and as she tries to come out of the ground, he plays Whack-A-Barda with his hammer and slams her right back down into the hole.
Okay, I mean, that's when Barda is just gonna like lift up the massive chunk of ground that Ronan is standing on from below, because she could scan where he is too with her Mega Rod, and she's gonna hurl that sucker right into the stratosphere before blasting it and Ronan to smithereens with an energy beam.
That's pretty hardcore. Well, Ronan can kind of fly using the universal weapon to create a energy floating disc construct that he can stand on. So as he's being like tossed into the air with this massive chunk of earth, he's going to hop off of that chunk of ground before Barda blasts it. And from the air, Ronan's going to transmute the falling debris into radion. So it's like raining radion rocks all over Barda, and they weaken her and crush her as she gets buried in this like rock storm.
How the fuck do you know about radion?
Everybody knows about radion, man.
You don't know shit about radion.
I know that a radion bullet killed Orion once. I remember that from his duel against Silver Surfer, and I bet you that Ronan's scans will have revealed that Barda has a radion weakness.
I forgot to mention that in my write-up, I guess.
Yeah, conveniently, I noticed.
Okay, I mean, well, once Barda senses that she's being weakened by radion, she's going to teleport into the sky above the debris and then just like quickly hurl her Mega Rod like a bullet right through Ronan's face, killing him.
But if Barda's in the air and she throws her Mega Rod, isn't she just going to fall straight down on top of the radion beneath her and then die that way?
Yeah, but I mean, that's a long fall, and as long as Ronan dies first, Barda still wins.
But what if Ronan uses the universal weapon to like dismantle the Mega Rod into pieces before it even reaches him? I think that's what happened.
This is apocalyptic technology. Like, that's...
It doesn't matter. If it's made out of molecules, you can blast it apart. So Barda just falls to her death on top of the radion debris.
I'm going to say no, because like he didn't even see where she teleported from, and she just threw it way too fast for him to react.
Well, that might be a good stopping point. We'll go ahead and leave it there and run the simulations to find out which of these scenarios happens. Either Big Barda throws her Mega Rod right through Ronan the Accuser's face, or Ronan is able to disintegrate the Mega Rod before it reaches him, and then she falls to her death, landing on something that she's weak to and therefore not durable against.
AJ9K, run the simulations.
Inputting data, running calculations, processing results. Simulations complete.
That was a particularly difficult speculation, I think. I feel like Ronan's abilities aren't particularly well defined. At least, he's wildly inconsistent across the comics. Sometimes he's like the most powerful badass you've ever seen. And then, sometimes he's like, mediocre at best.
Really, because like Barda is consistently hardcore against all of her appearances, I would say.
Well, she definitely had the edge over Ronan the Accuser in terms of durability, strength, and fighting. Although not like a massive advantage in either one of those categories, because Ronan is durable, he is strong, and he's pretty good at hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, Barda edged Ronan out in those categories, but Ronan was better in evasiveness, considering he could turn invisible and create force fields and stuff like that. We also said that he had greater perception, considering the far-ranging scanning abilities of his hammer. It was just slightly more than what has been depicted for Barda's Mega Rod. And we said, of course, that he was more versatile.
Yeah, considering that he pretty much has a lesser version of the power cosmic, which the Silver Surfer wields. So he could apply that for a wide variety of effects that Barda just can't do. Speed, damage, and range-wise, we said they were about comparable. So with all that, Jonathan, who's winning this one?
This is going to be a tough one. I think Barda has a shot at winning. I think it's going to be close, no matter who the winner is. And our Instagram followers thought the same thing. I think this is the first time we've ever had a 50-50 split on the poll we post to Instagram.
Yeah, I don't think this is the first time the poll results came out 50-50, but I do think we had more votes for this particular Instagram poll than we've had in a long time, and they came out dead even. Were the results pretty close to even? Let's find out. AJ9K, the results, please.
Here you are, sir.
All right, well, the winner between Ronan the Accuser and Big Barda is Ronan the fucking Accuser. Big Barda stands accused and sentenced to death for being super lame and not as good. Ronan the Accuser won 586 matches out of the 1,000 simulations, whereas Big Barda won 414. So it was 58.6% of the time, whereas Barda only won 41.4%.
This is heartbreaking. This is super sad. I did not think it was going to turn out this way. I thought Barda was just way too awesome to ever lose to someone who, lost via a dance-off in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie.
Well, they went tit for tat in terms of their advantages over each other. Barda had the durability, strength, fighting. Ronan had evasiveness, intellect, perception. But what edged Ronan over was his versatility. That universal weapon of his is so damn versatile. It can do crazy shit like break apart Big Barda's Mega Rod and then weigh her down with heavy gravity. Things like that.
Now I see why you didn't want me to bring a mother box into this match. Because if I had that versatility stat, would not have been the death knell that it was.
Perhaps not, but at the end of the day, it was your choice, and you made that choice for a reason, and I think you were right.
Of course you do. The only reason I didn't give it to her is because she's not from New Genesis. She's from Apocalypse, and the mother boxes are New Genesis tech. I mean, she's married to a New Genesis guy, but the Mega Rod is sort of like her signature weapon. And all I know is, at the end of the day, I'd rather have a Mega Rod than a lame-ass weapon called the Universal Weapon.
Well, the Mega Rod is just penis envy. That's all it is.
That's fair.
So,
yeah. That's what I call mine.
And I call mine the Universal Weapon. So there you go. That does it for this duel, guys. Let us know what you thought about the results by writing to us at dynamicduelpodcast@gmail.com or by visiting us on Instagram or Twitter. You can find links to all of our accounts by checking out our show notes or visiting our website, dynamicduel.com.
And on our site, you can also find a link to our Patreon page where you can join our Dynamic 2.0 tier and chat with us and fellow listeners, our Fantastic 4 tier, which gets you bonus content each month, our X-Force tier that makes you an executive producer of this podcast, or our newest tier that lets you join our Dynamike Podcast Network. If you can't join Patreon, you could still support the show by signing up for our e-newsletter, also at dynamicduel.com.
Or you can rate the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, or even on our website.
Our next episode, of course, is going to be a review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. I got my tickets way late, and I have the world's shittiest seats, but that's what I get for thinking that superhero fatigue had set in.
Not for Marvel. Maybe
Quantumania?
For
Hello?
Shazam. I mean, Ant-Man had a great opening weekend, and hopefully Guardians does too. I've heard that it's really good. I know at the very least it's going to be really heartfelt.
I know personally I'm really looking forward to it because I just want to see how James Gunn continues to mature as a filmmaker.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting watch for both of us for separate reasons.
But that does it for this episode. We want to give a big thanks to our executive producers, Ken Johnson,
John Starosky,
Zachary Hepburn,
Dustyn Balcom,
Miggy Matanguihan,
Brandon Estergard,
Nathaniel Wagner,
Levi Yeaton,
Nick Abanto,
Austin Wesolowski,
AJ Dunkerley,
Scott Camacho,
Gil Camacho,
Adam Speas,
and Zach Wilder for helping make this podcast possible. We'll talk to you guys next week. Up, and away.
True Believers.
Dance off, bro, me and you.